Hello Superuser, so today's a really exciting day because we're finally getting to explore JW Lua and have an entire series on how to code in JW Lua. Now this is going to be a really exciting time because JW Lua is one of the most powerful things you can do in Finale. So if you can learn how to do it, it'll make your workflow flow really fast. So we're going to go overall what this series is about and who should watch it, what you'll get out of it and how it's going to work. And then we're actually going to go to some introduction to Lua. Coded Lua before, this is a great place to start. And then finally we're going to go over some next steps with some challenge problems that you can do to get better at it, as well as talking about the of note JW Lua series that I'm doing in addition to this one. To start off, we could start off with like a nice cheesy quote that's give a man a program, frustrate him for a day, teach a man to program, frustrate him for a lifetime. Now I have no idea who Muhammad Wazim is, but this is such a great quote because it really actually defines programming. It can be really frustrating at times, especially if you have something that should work and you have no idea why it's not working how you'd expect it to be. But the entire purpose of this course is to help you get from your Finale knowledge and help incorporate Lua with a lot less frustration than you would otherwise normally go through. Which is why we're going to create this step-by-step, starting with a really solid structure, and then slowly adding on knowledge on top of that, rather than the normal way to go with just looking at the documentation and being completely overwhelmed. Because even if you've coded before, JW Lua can be really tricky and can be really frustrating. So to give you an idea of how everything's going to work, this is designed to be a really well-designed course. I am constantly planning many videos ahead for this. The benefit of that is it'll help us introduce concepts slowly, really get a grasp of what's going on. And it will also help you get a lot of hands-on practice through both challenge problems and throughout each of the videos we're actually going to be doing stuff which you can replicate right at home on your computer. And the other nice benefit of this is I've designed it that way we can get into applications of this really early. So as early as next video, we're actually going to go into the JW Lua interface and start doing some really cool stuff there. So some prerequisites. You should be a Finale user. You should be knowing how exactly Finale works, because it is all about Finale and making your Finale workflow about 100 times faster, quite literally in some cases. Lua can at times be between 300 and 400 times faster than even Finale script, and Finale script can save you a lot of time to begin with. Last thing, you have to be willing to learn. Coding in general, but especially JW Lua, is not something you're going to learn overnight, but we are going to make it as easy as possible for you to learn, but it will take effort on your side. However, what is not required is you do not need coding experience before, and you do not need JW Lua experience before. So last couple things is I always like it whenever someone gives you recommendations on how to learn a series to get the most out of it. So here's a couple quick recommendations. Every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. a new video will be released in this series. What I would recommend is just on your calendar, block out a time from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every single Wednesday morning and just watch the video as soon as it comes out. None of these videos are going to be half an hour long or even close to half an hour, but that'll still give you plenty of time to watch the video, pause, and try out all the different exercises we go into during the video that we can learn as you're watching the video, not just passively watching it. And then there's going to be quote-unquote homework at the end of this. Again, totally optional, but if you really want to learn, I would highly recommend doing it. Most of the time, it should take you somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour to complete. Sometimes maybe a bit longer, but that's what I'm trying to aim for. So that's a brief overview of the series. Without further ado, let's dive in. So in the description, there's going to be a link to an online Lua editor. I'd highly recommend going there and trying this out because today we're just going to learn some of the basics of Lua. And we're using this online Lua editor instead of JW Lua just because it is a lot easier and learning Lua is a great foundation. Once you have your editor pulled up, again, links in the description, just going to type in a very simple command. You might not even know what it does yet, but we're going to do a print hello world, exactly like this. And then just hit run. In the console over here, prints out hello world. And let's try something else. Let's try print out this is Lua, right? And then we go to hit run, and over here it says this is Lua. So in case you haven't figured out what we're doing yet, on the left side over here we're actually typing in the Lua code, and on the right side is the output from the Lua code that we're doing. And so there's a bunch of different commands we can do in Lua. One of them is the print command, and that basically says whatever is on the inside of these two parentheses, just put it over here on the output and just give it to me as the output. And we can add in multiple lines. So if we go to a new line and hit print, I like using Finale, right? And then we hit run, and then it says this is Lua because that's the first line, and then on the second line it says I like using Finale. And we can literally chain these as much as we want, and we can have as many lines as we want. We can even go all the way down here and go print This is really fun. And then hit run, and we'll see this is Lua. I like using finale, and this is really, really fun. All is different outputs. This is the basic essence of a program. We just have on each line, we have a different command, and the program just goes through every single line one by one and does exactly what it says. So you've seen now that we can print out a bunch of different things, like we can have the print out pizza or any of the other phrases that we did before. But you might ask to yourself, why is it that we need these single quotes on either side of it? Why can't we just, like take them out? So let's try it. Let's take them out. And if we hit run, we get nil. That seems odd because we wanted to print out pizza and we're printing out nil. Why is that? Most languages have different data types, including Lua, and one of them that we just talked about is actually string. So string is any piece of text you want, but it has to be in between quotes like that, because the quotes define what the string is. That's why with the quotes we can print it out. And we can put anything we want in the single quotes. So we can say anything in single quotes like that, right? Is a valid string. Technically, anything in double quotes is also a valid string like that. But as programmers, we typically like to use single quotes because it's just easier, you don't have to press shift. And so a string is used for storing any type of text you want. So you may be asking then, well, what other kinds of things can we store? Another popular one is numbers. And we can just print out any number we want, like the number 1. If we go over here and print 1, we get 1. We can do something like print 2, like that, and we get 2 over here. We can even do negative numbers like -1. 0 is another number that works. Or even decimals. We can do decimals, like we could do 3.14159265535, and that'll print out as well. Now, the one thing we cannot do for number in Lua is we cannot do fractions. So if we print, I don't know, like 2 divided by 3, it'll actually respond to that as 2 divided by 3, not 2/3. And then there is another data type, and that is called a Boolean. A Boolean is just true or false, nothing else. It is a way where you can start to add logic into what you're doing by just saying if things are true or if things are false. And the final data type that we're going to be talking about, we've actually already experienced before. So you remember when we talked about print pizza, and over here we got nil? Well, nil is another data type, and basically what nil is the absence of data. It's not 0, it's not an empty string, it's not kind of true, kind of false. It is literally just the absence of something. And so just a quick review on data types. We have strings, which are anything in text like that. We have numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative or decimals. We have Booleans, which are true or false, and we have nil, which is the absence of any data. So why is it that when we have pizza in here and we want to print it out, it's thinking that we have nothing there? And that is because of another thing we can do in programming, which is called variables. Now, a variable is basically just a way we can store data. So let's define a variable real quickly called pizza. So we say local pizza equals I like eating pizza. Just to break this down, local defines that it's a variable. Pizza is the name that we're going to call it. Equals is just an assignment operator. Basically says take whatever's on this side and define it to be that. So then pizza becomes I like eating pizza. And if we were to now print out pizza, instead of outputting nil, it's going to output I like eating pizza over here. And well, we can put anything we want actually in this variable. So we could put out a number like 2.711828 like that. And so pizza is equal to the number E, and we can output that number instead. Or we can say, okay, pizza is going to be true, because why would pizza ever be false? And it outputs true over here. And if we wanted to, we can even put nil, and then it says it's nothing. So before, when we said just print pizza and we didn't actually assign pizza as a variable, what Lua was thinking was, well, pizza must be a variable, but I've never heard of it before. Therefore, it's nothing. There's nothing there. That's why when you just print pizza without anything, it becomes nil. So let's just have quick practice of defining a bunch of different variables. So let's say local, my string equals I can code now. So we have a variable now called myString whose contents is I can load now. Let's call another one, my num. And we're going to call this just 1, 2, 3, 4. So now my num is 1, 2, 3, 4. Local, my bool is equal to false. And then local, my nil equals nil. This is how you can find different variables. Now we're actually going to get some sort of automation with what's called a for loop. And now a for loop is just a loop so we can have the same chunk of code run multiple times. And for basically says, well, for how many times are we doing this? So let's define it. For I equals 1, 10, 1. And then end. So here's what's going on. So the for basically says we're starting a for loop. I equals 1. So we're going to have a variable named I and start at 1. And we're going to have it keep going until I surpasses 10. And we're going to make I 1 larger each run. In the middle, we can do whatever we want. This is just a giant block of code, and anything in here will repeat. So just that way we can get an idea of what's going on, we're just going to print I. And let me delete this. That way we start with a fresh slate and hit run. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because I starts at 1. Each time it gets larger by 1 and then goes to 10. If we wanted to get larger by 2, we then see 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Just like that. If we wanted to get larger by 3, we do that. And we can actually have decimals in here. So if we wanted to get larger by 3.1, it's like that until it gets larger than 10. Or we can say larger than 100, for instance. And we get all the multiples of 3.1 from 1 to 100. Or if we really wanted to, we can have it start at 100 and then go down to 1 by intervals of negative 3.1. And we get this. Or intervals of negative from 1 to negative 100 of interval of negative 3.1. And we get 100, go down by 3.1 all the way until we get to negatives, and we go all the way down until we're right above negative 100. So I hopefully you can start to see how the for loops work, and if not, take the chance right now, pause the video, just try some other numbers in here by yourself, and just start guessing and thinking about what's going to happen, and then seeing what the actual results are. Because we are going to now implement a program that takes care of everything we've learned so far. And all it is going to do is it's going to sum up the numbers from 1 to 100. Every single number. So it's going to be like 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Let's just clear out everything over here and start from scratch. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to define a variable named sum, and we're going to set sum equal to 0. And this is just going to keep track of whatever the total sum is. And they're going to have a for loop where I equals 1. I equals 1. We want I to go all the way to 100, and we want it to increment by 1. That way we get first round is 1, then we add 1 to it to get 2, then we get 3, all the way up until 100. Do starts the actual block of code that we're going to be running, then end just ends it, and in here we're going to redefine sum. So we're going to say sum is now equal to whatever sum was before plus I. And take the moment right now just to walk through your mind and just imagine what this is doing and why this works. So the very first loop we start where sum is equal to 0, and then during the middle of the code we want sum to then equal be 0 plus 1 because I is 1. Then the next round, because sum is 1, so now it's 1 plus 2 because I is 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3, so now sum is 3, etc., etc., etc. And so then at the end, if we print sum, we should get the sum from all of the numbers between 1 and 100. And there we go, we get 50-50. And so even if you've never really coded before, you can start to see how you can start doing things really automatically and really fast, quite efficiently, just by putting a little bit of thought into writing the code, and you can get really extraordinary results. I know we haven't even started getting into JW Lua. We're just going over very basic Lua language syntax. Everyone's favorite homework. These are the challenge problems for you, and if you can do all of these, it basically says, well, you understand what we just went over in this video, because half the problem in coding is actually learning the material. The other half is figuring out how to use it for yourself. Now, some of these are going to be really easy, others are going to be a bit harder, and so if you work your way through them, it will eventually really start to solidify what we went over today. That way, next week when we actually dive into doing some really cool things in Finale, things will start to make a lot more sense. The first challenge problem is to just make a loop that prints out the first 10 perfect squares. So we have 1, 4, 9, 16, that's just 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, etc. The second one is to make a loop that prints out the first 50 even numbers, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, all the way to 100. The next one is just to print out the first 50 powers of 2. This is not something you'd want to calculate by hand, and so that's all that is 2, and then 2 times 2, then 2 times 2 times 2, then 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, otherwise known as 2 times 2 to the second, times 2 to the 3, times 2 to the 4, times 2 to the 5. You might be able to start seeing where the loop is in here. And the final one is to print out your favorite flavor of ice cream. This is probably really easy, but why not? It's a fun thing to do. And feel free to put your solutions in the comments below. I will read them. If you have questions, I will answer them. And it is a good way for us to actually start building up a community all around JW Lua. And so if you really want to learn this, just make it a habit that each week after you watch the video and do the homework, just put your answers in the comments below. The last and final thing to go over that I hinted at the beginning, I've also written this all up for an UvNote article, and I'm going to continue to do this. Each week in UvNote, we're going to have a article that basically goes over the exact same information we just learned in the video, but it's in a written format in case you don't want to keep referencing the video, or if this is something that you learned better from. Either way, it is the exact same content that we just went over, but it's a different form, helping to help you reinforce everything. And even if you are totally fine with the videos and don't want to check the articles out, do go check out UvNote. UvNote is an amazing resource, and there's so much cool things on here you can find with Sibelius, Finale, and Dorico. So yeah, definitely check it out. And that is it for this week. And next time, we will actually be learning how to change note-head characters in Finale using JW Lua. It's so much faster than using special tools. So if you found this video at all helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That way I know you definitely want me to keep continuing with the JW Lua series. And finally, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. That way every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. you can get a notification saying, hey, remember, new JW Lua video